Did y'all watch this? Okay. What happens when you have mother trauma? Okay. What happens when it goes unhealed and you just need community connection? Okay. Your mother, open your mouth, walk through the door. We're going to talk about Wayward from a therapist perspective because we're going to do a deep dive, a full review, a full deep dive on all of the different characters, drama, and about that ending. Okay, what about that ending? Now, I'm Denise Brady. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist who loves reality TV. I'm a generational trauma therapist and I help people heal from, you know what? If you're new here, mother wounds. And this right here tap right into everything that I work with. So I need you to get something to drink, pull up, get you a blanket for comfort because there will be lots of spoilers. Okay, lots of spoilers. All right, so hit that notification bell, subscribe, like, hype the video, come on into the chat. We gonna talk about some things, okay? Now, wayward. Okay, what you have right now is a group of people who are all unhealed. Everybody represents a different part of probably all of us, all our different selves. Some of us as teenagers who felt unseen, some of us who were born into systems and parents who had assumptions and their own beliefs and ideas about what we were supposed to be, how we were supposed to act in their minds. Okay. And what happens when you birth a child with expectations and that child does not become what you already came up with in your mind? So many people have children, and before they are even birthed, they know. Look at me hitting myself. They already know when my child comes out, they're going to be like this. They're going to do this. This is going to be their attitude. This is a sport they're going to play. Okay. But oftentimes, children don't often come out the way the parent has envisioned. They have their own mind, they're a human, their own personality. Okay. And so we are met with Wayward, okay, in Tall Pines. This community of people who I think are lost. Is it a cult? Was it a cult? Did we see a new cult develop at the end? Okay. But this place is supposed to be where parents come and dump their kids. Okay. Similar to boarding schools, similar to what we see in group homes. They dump their kids. Okay. They dump their kids to with the presumption of, oh, this place is going to heal them. We're going to come back for you. No, we ain't. We moving on with our lives. Okay. The problem, the identified patients has been removed from our system. Our what we have come to believe of what we want for our lives. You never fit into that. Okay. And so many people can relate to having parents who had concepts, ideas, and beliefs about how their child, how you as a person were supposed to fit into their lives. And I wonder for those of you watching this, what they did with you when you didn't fit into their lives, how they treated you, how they talked to you. Okay. How many of you guys have watched this series and felt a little bit of a connection to feeling unseen about some of these people? Okay. Now we're going to do a rundown of all the characters because they all got some things from a therapist we need to talk about. Okay. Now we are introduced to Evelyn. Okay. Evelyn, played by Toni Collette. Even though I have to say, I do feel like in some ways, maybe it was her character. Her level of acting in this was a little bit muted to me. Maybe it's just me. It could have been how her character was actually supposed to be. But I remember watching her on University of USA of Terra back in the day. And just like I was expecting a little bit more from her, but I digress. Okay. Now, Evelyn is someone who has a lot of mother wounds. She appears to me to be someone who has a savior complex. Now she presents to these parents like, hey, I'm the one. I can save your child. You know, refinance your home, your retirement, give me the 401k, and just dump them over here with me. Come over here to Wayward, okay? Where we help children find their real selves and push out the self that never helped them. Okay. So they have this group home, combine, this place that children get dumped, teenagers. And she's supposed to be somebody who, in the parents' eyes, really is a savior. She has a savior complex, and it comes from her own trauma of having her baby removed from her, having parents who took from her, and her not healing that trauma, and her finding community and connection in other people who were wounded. And there are so many people out there who find community and connection in others who are wounded. I can push out my own hurt to heal other people. Sometimes those are therapists. Okay. Sometimes it's like instead of confronting my own shit, I can heal other people. Okay. And I took a lot of notes. So I'm looking at some of my notes. Okay. Her thing is they hurt you, your parents, but we love you. Okay. And all you have to do is work through my process, ascend, and we're going to get rid of that part, those parts of you that never served you. Okay. We're going to bury them. And it relates to me in some ways of what we're going through now. Take away people's ability to think for themselves and they'll fall for anything. Okay. A lot of these people nowadays in politics and media, I think, have savior complexes. So, as much as this relates to back in the day with cults and group homes, which and boarding cares that are not really, I think, as big as they were in the early 2000s, 90s, you see this same rhetoric. Okay. A lot of these people, have trauma trying to heal other people. And because she has not dealt with her own trauma, okay, she is trying to help these teens who have been the identified patient in their families. She was the identified patient. She is able to become the mother to a lot of these teens. Okay. Now, for some of them, it works. For some of them, they escape. And we never really know. Did they really explain where all them people really went? Let me know in the comments. I'm still kind of wondering where all those 18 kids who disappeared from trying to run away. But it's through her wanting to be a mother, I think. Her wanting to be a mom, having her own child taken away from her. Her when she was hurting, joining a cult, and then deciding, hey, I can make this thing bigger than you, man. And so she decides to take him out. Okay. And we see over and over again people who are not for her, but they are against her, got to go. They have to go. All right. Now, we also meet her mirror. Her mirror to me is Laura. Now I'm gonna get into them in a little bit, okay? But Laura to me, who is I guess we should do Alex first. Let's talk about Alex. We'll get into so let's talk about as Alex. Now it's interesting because we don't see a lot of, to me, trans actors, actresses at the forefront. Okay. When we do, to me, it's more stereotypical roles. We don't really see the layers of these characters, the nuances. They normally get put into background noise, stereotypical, flamboyant roles. But this time I enjoyed it. And Alex is the troubled police officer who just relocated to Tall Pines with his wife, who has her own issues. And I'm going to get into that. Okay, I'm going to get into that. But Alex themselves is trying to figure out some things. About to have a baby, doesn't know anything about this town, but throughout some interesting interactions with other people, we see how Alex is able to uncover some truth, some lies, and I think also find connection in his own, I don't want to say problematic, but him also being a killer. Because we see at the beginning, unfortunately, he has a situation with a troubled child, teen who decides to run away. And that teen ends up at his house. And it was like, okay, I'm going to choose my wife or we might lose our lives. And Alex, I think, has the shadow of killing the character Riley in his home. All right. And so over and over again, we see Alex go through some things, and I'll get to Alex a little bit later, but I want to move on to Laura because I think Laura is very interesting. Laura is Alex's wife. And I think that, to me, Laura is a mirror of Toni Collette, Evelyn. You see, this to me is the younger version in some ways of Evelyn. And Laura has a lot of her own trauma. And I want to highlight the fact that Laura is about to become a mother and that Evelyn was about to become a mother, but had her baby taken away from her. Okay. Laura had a lot of PTSD, flashbacks. She dissociates. And we often see her returning to this pond, lake, and we're kind of wondering what's with this lake. And throughout the story, we find out early on that Laura is a graduate of Wayward, of Tall Pine School. Okay. This whole town, as Alex realizes, are all people who have graduated from Tall Pines. They're all products of it. And nobody really escapes Tall Pines. This whole community is based off of Evelyn creating this community of people who are child free, who I think in a lot of ways are still controlled. And Laura, to me, is just like Evelyn. They butt heads because, to me, they are the same person. They're both fighting for the ability to build their own communities. Evelyn's trying to stick with the community that she has developed at Tall Pine School, where I feel like Laura is trying to create something new. Okay. So we often see Evelyn coming over to the house and having dinner with Alex and Laura, I think, to keep an eye on Laura. Okay. Because she knows who she really is. And I wonder, do y'all believe that Laura was an innocent person who got caught up in just the um, stuff of Tall Pines? Or is she really worse? Like Evelyn told us that she is worse than Evelyn. I feel like they're the same person, just younger version. They're both fighting to be these cult-like leaders and build their own communities. Okay. But you see over and over again, this woman, Laura, and then slowly it unravels. Now I knew once we saw her put that frog, once we saw her put that frog inside of the garbage disposal, I'm like, oh, and the blood of the frog was on her face. Oh, it's something really off about her. And it starts to make me wonder, okay, what really happened with her parents? What's in that lake? Why does she tend to go into the lake and she dissociates? Okay. Because we find out that she killed her own parents. And there's also the other layer of, let's get a little bit into Abby and Layla. Because I feel like we have these three women. We have Evelyn, we have Laura, and we have Layla. All in some ways troubled teens. Okay. And Layla, to me, also represents the future. I think at times when she was younger, Laura was Evelyn's, plan B, or just kind of like her muse. Okay. But then I think she got older and I think Evelyn realized she couldn't control her. And then so we get Layla and Abby. Okay. Where am I? Layla and Abby. And so it's interesting. Layla and Abby have a trauma bond. and their ability to see one another past the trauma, past what they have been through is it's interesting to see the dynamic. Because at first we are put in the position of seeing um Layla as the trouble one, the leader, the one of fearless, she can do anything, nothing can stop her. In some ways, she's a leader and Abby follows her. Abby has the perfect life in some ways, on the outside, the surface level, rich parents. But once again, Abby did not fit into her parents' narrative. She did not fit into what her parents wanted her to be. Okay. And so because of that, she had to go. She had to go. And with with Abby, I still think that there are parts of her that remind me of both Evelyn and Laura. And so Abby ends up at Tall Pines because she's trying to save her friend. Oh, where am I? Let me share my screen. Abby only ends up at Tall Pines because she's trying to save Layla is only trying to save Abby, who was sent there by her parents. And it's sad the way that Abby ended up there. Her parents didn't tell her. She just was asleep one night and a bunch of people came in and threw her in the van. But that's how some of these schools do, especially when you got money. Okay, they pull up at your house in the middle of the night, throw you in the van, and your parents just watching like, oh, we don't see nothing. We don't see nothing. And I think for her, she became the one who went through the journey of this exposure, manipulative therapy. And at first, it was supposed to be about, hey, me and Layla are going to put this scheme together so that we can distract and eventually escape. But I think with Layla, she found community and connection here. She was trying to escape the shame, the guilt of her sister's passing. And I think exposure therapy can be good in the right hands, a trained professional. But I think the exposure therapy, I say therapies, because it was all a bunch of bullshit in this show. The exposure therapies here are meant to break you. Yes, go through the door. Open your mouth to your mother. Open your mouth. Okay, ascend. Ascend. But it breaks people. And so we see how this experimental just manipulation, torture really does break some of the other people at this camp school. But for her, it didn't break her. It kind of made it seem like she was able to get rid of the parts of herself that were bad. And I think that was a bad thing, but at the same time, her character found herself under the manipulation and torture of Tall Pines. But what happens when for so long you have gone unseen and you are running away from the person that everyone has seen as the problem, and all you really want to do is feel seen? And she was able to feel seen at Tall Pines. So as much as her and Abby were trying to make a plan to leave, Abby ended up being the one that was stronger. The plot to be under the spell and play along with Evelyn just so they can get out, it worked, but it didn't work. It worked for Abby. And in some ways, it worked for Layla. It worked for Layla because she finally found community. And I say so many times in my videos, people are only looking for community and connection. That's what everyone is looking for these days, is somewhere to feel connected. Some of that's through YouTube, some of it's through TikTok, some of it's parasocial relationships with celebrities. But it just shows you how even the strongest person can be manipulated. Because Evelyn was able to tap into that shame, guilt, hurt from her sister's passing, the guilt of, did I kill my sister? Was I involved in it? Did she drown? Was she crying out for help? And I didn't do anything because all I ever wanted was for my sister to not be there anymore. And she's a representation of so many people who have siblings who don't feel seen, who are in the shadows of their siblings, who might have thoughts of their siblings disappearing, okay, but would never really do anything. Um, but I think she was finally able to find what was missing for her in Tall Pines. And though this is a limited series, I wonder, what could have happened to her character? Could we have seen more of her after the breakout? All those things. But her and Abby's friendship, to me, at times, I feel like the trauma between them and the fight to just get out of, Tall Pines got in the way. They're two girls from two different places, but they both want to be seen. One wants to escape her life. Well, I think they both actually want to escape their lives. Um, it's just that she didn't see that there was anything out there for her. Her future just looked dark. She had nowhere to go. Her mom had moved on. She remortgaged the house. She had a man. There was nowhere for her to go. And so for her, Tall Pines represented safety and comfort. She really didn't have anywhere else to really go. Okay. Now we also see just how um this door, okay? I want to know from you guys, what do you think the door represented? At times, I feel like it represented the subconscious part of your brain that's like, really stopping you from going towards the trauma to really sit with it and focus on it. At times, it represented the threshold of tolerance, how much your body and your mind can really hold when it comes to trauma before you push through and really get past what's been hurting you. But the way that, Evelyn did it was terrible. Okay. All these kids represent to me how a lot of these places that parents throw away their kids, some of them are so desperate for help that they think, oh, this place is really going to help me. No, it's not. Okay. It's really not. And a lot of these kids are forgotten about. We've seen different documentaries, victims come out. I think Paris Hilton even tried to do some like laws, I think, and talk to Congress about how these type of places really hurt people. But I wonder if people are really listening, if they're really paying attention. Okay. Because to me, it was in this moment when I realized, oh, it's working. The psychological manipulation, the grooming. Now, I'm not talking about the grooming in the sexual sense, but the grooming of the power of Toni Collette to see her weaknesses, to see, uh, you're moldable. I can get you. Okay. That hurt from your mother, the unhealed parts of yourself. I see that and I can use it and take advantage of it. And I think a lot of these places, not even, just, boarding cares, group homes, some of these hospitals, that kids go through. I've been in the field for a long time. I hear stories about people who were, human trafficked from group homes, from inpatient cares, how some of these inpatient nurses take advantage of innocent children, teens, girls, because their parents aren't looking, because they're vulnerable. Who's really going to believe that I was essayed by a nurse? You know, who's really going to believe that, you know, the head of this hospital, this treatment facility is trafficking girls? There is a dark and sinister underworld. I've heard things, I've worked with people, and it's really sad out there that this is possible. Okay? that a lot of people have been through this. And we kind of get to towards the end, and there's a twist. There's this cop that ends up being her second in line. Okay. And the cop actually is supposed to be Alex's partner, but in the end was part of the gotcha, Alex. And we see Alex get kidnapped and get taken while at the same time, Laura is having her baby. Okay. Laura is in labor while at the same time, Evelyn is being taken out. So it's the battle of which woman will dominate and become the new cult leader, and which one will be left behind. And it also comes out during this time, Alex finds out that her wife, or his wife, sorry, didn't mean to mispronoun there. His wife actually killed her parents. And so now they have this thing in common. They have both murdered people. And as Toni Collette is like in her catatonic state, spilling the beans, Alex is trying to figure out what's really true. Could my wife have killed her parents? And we get back to this house. The house that has a lot of memories, a lot of trauma. And Laura is having a home birth. And I love the cinematography. I love how you see the water and Toni Collette being suppressed underwater. You see Laura having a water birth, and the baby is born. Alex gets there just in time for the birth. Okay. And in this moment, a new cult is being born, a new legacy. Okay. There are no children in this town, in this community. This is a childrenless community. But here we are, the new mother, the new savior, the new leader has brought what no one else has been able to do, birth a baby. All right. And I think, Alex is starting to look around and, wow, am I going to be a coward? Am I going to have courage? This is my baby. And so she gives birth. And we talk about skin to skin contact. And the person helping her have the baby is like, yes, let's do skin to skin. Alex is like, give me my baby. And Laura's like, the baby is everyone's. Yes, the baby is everyone's. And Alex is like, wait, what? And so everyone around, we see the camera pan around, everyone has off their shirt, ready for skin to skin contact. Ready for skin to skin contact. And I think that all the people in that room are broken, are hurting, have trauma. And this baby is supposed to heal everyone's trauma. This baby is everyone's. And I wonder all along, is this what Laura had planned? A new cult? Was she wanting to take over power to start something new and better for Tall Pines? Everyone in that room is a graduate of Tall Pines School. Only for now the rebirth in this baby and the rebirth of this town. But not for good, but for the collective, all of our collective trauma. And so she has the baby, everyone's holding it, and we finally get to the end. And we see Abby finally get to a point where she finds the car and her dog. I think it was Alex's dog. And Abby is just waiting for Alex to come and get in the car with them. And so we see Alex running down the dark pathway with the baby. And then we're like, oh, Alex decided to be courageous and stop being a coward. But oh no, y'all. The parallel process of seeing two different endings. We see a second ending of Alex still at home with Laura and the baby, being the protector. Being the protector. And at one point, if y'all don't remember, Abby says she was tired of being the protector. So both these people also, I think, are very similar. You see that in a lot of characters, the good parts, the bad parts. But in the end, no one is really bad. There are no bad children. And then the story kind of ends. You see Toni Collette in this catatonic state with all these doors. We don't know what really happened to her, all this water. And we hear Pink Floyd. Time. Okay, time. It just lets you know that people out there, as much as the world is divisive, people are really the same. People are struggling. People have trauma. People have different parts of themselves that they're trying to ignore and avoid. But I think in some ways, the story felt like to me, showing us that we're a lot more similar than different. And unfortunately, it's a limited series. Okay. So we're never going to know what happened. But I know that some of y'all didn't like how much diversity was in this show. Um, People are people. Get used to it. We need to see more, Asian Americans, more trans actors, actresses as head, um, not head actors, but I know what I mean. Main characters. We see a lot, some of these people, Asian Americans, Native Americans, they end up being like side characters. And the shows that we do see that have them being main cast members get canceled. Okay. And then I wanted to see more of that, more voices, differences. And I know the biggest critique I've seen online is that it was too much diversity fit into like one show. Okay, y'all. Apparently, people hate diversity. They hate DEI, but this was good. A lot of trauma. Once again, seeing the cycle of generational trauma. Now she's had this baby, her trauma, her unhealed self, and all the people that are going to pour in to this little child, this little baby, are pouring into the system that this child was put into, the pressure of this child being placed into, I feel like what was a cult, and how people are very susceptible to falling for cult-like behaviors, communities, because they're just looking for connection. Their own friends and family have forgotten about them, have gotten too busy, don't care about them. So sometimes finding a community like this is the answer. Okay. But it was a pretty good, it was pretty good, y'all. It was pretty good. I want to know your thoughts. Do you think that people are easily susceptible to these kind of communities? Do they still exist? And what happens when you're a child born into a system that your parents created and you don't fit in? Where do you go? Where do you find community? Is it possible to find community? Okay. But all of us are out here trying to survive, trying to live, trying to fight systems, trying to live in a system. Um, but we are one big nation of unhealed trauma, and people are perpetuating their trauma onto one another. And that's why we're in a mental health crisis, because so many people are unhealed. There's not access to care. Some people, it's too hard for them to sit with their trauma and really deal with it. It's better to focus on others, build connections, parasocial relationships, than sit with the stuff that I've been hurting from. Okay. But let me know your thoughts on this show. Hit that like, subscribe, like the video. What I miss, okay, that y'all want to bring up. Okay. Did they really touch on the tadpoles? I don't feel like they really touched on the tadpole little situation. Okay. But let me know your thoughts. I'm Denise Brady, and I will see you next time. Bye, girl. Bye.